spent all this time making the top of your pot really nice, and now we're gonna figure out how to take it from something that looks a little bit messier and trim with two different options, either a simple foot where it's just flat on the bottom, or a foot ring where it's got a ring on the bottom. Let's get started. So you have your piece of pottery that you've thrown, and now it's leather hard, which means I can't mold it, but I can mark it with my nail. It should be about the consistency of a block of cheese. That's why it's also called cheese hard. And we want to make the bottom nice. And so to do that, we're going to do what's called trimming. So we're going to make sure our wheel is going the right way, counterclockwise to start. And I'm going to start with the pencil, and I'm going to let the wheel do the work for me. I'm going to draw some lines on here. And what that's going to allow me to do is get this fairly close to the middle without having to think about it too much. Then to check it, you're going to slowly spin it, and as you're spinning it, your needle tool is going to come close to the edge of your pot. And you'll see it's going on there. And so the mark actually goes from right about here all the way around to this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the middle of the mark and point it towards me. Check this out. All right. So the middle of the mark is the part that's sticking too far out. So I'm going to push in this way, push away from myself, and move it just so slightly that way. Then I'm going to spin it again. Check it. Once the mark goes all the way around, you know it's in the middle. So I'm going to pretend that I didn't get this quite centered the first time when I put it on the wheel, so you can see what it would look like multiple times when you're doing it. So it's spinning. I'm going to slowly come in. It's going. All right. I'm going to find the middle of the mark. Mark goes from there all the way to there. Middle of it facing myself. And now I'm going to slightly push it away. I'm going to check it again. So now the mark is longer. The longer the mark is, the closer to being center it is, so the less you have to move it. So there's the beginning. There's the end, the middle of it facing myself. I'm going to push slightly away. Check it one more time. Now it's marking all the way around, so I know it's in the middle. So to keep it on the wheel, I'm going to take some clay. And you don't really want to add water at this point, because if you add water and it runs down your pot, it's going to get stuck between the clay and the wheel, and then you'll have all these little goobies that you have to get off later, and that's annoying. All right. Secure. All right. Now we're going to use our trimming tool. This is kind of like the generic standard trimming tool for most things. You'll notice it looks very similar to something you would find in a kitchen, and that is a pear core. People use it to scoop the insides out of pears before they can them. If you're a struggling artist and you want to buy your own tool of this variety, this is about 3 times more expensive at a pottery store as it is at a kitchen store. So just go buy it at a grocery store. It's a lot cheaper. It's the exact same tool, and you'll be able to save some scratch. All right, so I'm going to spin it kind of at a medium speed. And I'm going to come in with this edge, and the first thing I'm going to do is clean up the outside. There's 3 reasons why we trim pots. The first one is to make them aesthetically pleasing, make them look good. Because you put all that work into the top, you want to make sure the bottom looks just as good. One of the reasons I'm curving this underneath is because when it sits upright, your eye is going to see a shadow in between the table and your mug right about here, and whether you notice it or not, it's going to make your brain think the cup is lighter than it actually is. It looks like it's lifting off the table, and that looks really nice. Our brains like it. The second reason we trim is to make the bottom flat so that it sits flat. Now to do this, a lot of people have the urge to just go straight down and trim like this, but that creates a lot of friction and can actually pull your pot off the wheel. So you want to start with the tiny end of your trimming tool. And notice I'm holding it with 2 hands, and I'm kind of holding my arms close to my body so that it's not wiggling around a lot. You want to hold it really secure. Speed the wheel up a little bit. So I'm going to start from the outside, about the 3 o'clock position. And I'm going to slowly go into the center. Now when you're trimming just a simple foot on the bottom, it would be almost impossible to try to get this perfectly flat. So instead of trying to get it perfectly flat, we're actually going to try to make it not flat. We're going to have it slightly dipped in the middle so that the only part that's going to be touching the table is really just this part on the outside, this part right here. That's really the only part that's going to touch the table, and then it's going to slowly dip down. Speed this up a little bit, finish cleaning her up. So to make it look nice, to make it sit flat. And then the third reason is to make it lighter, to remove clay. We can recycle all of these trimmings and reuse them. So now you'll notice I'm using the medium end of the trimming tool, make it a little bit flatter, working from the smallest part of the tool to the largest part of the tool. So it's slightly dipping down in the middle. And then the last part I'm going to use the flat end just to kind of smooth it out and clean it up a little bit. Alright, and the last part that I do before I smooth it all the way is I spin it pretty fast and I hold this at a 45-degree angle. And I just cut a little line right on the edge. And what that's going to be used for is later when I go to glaze, I know that I'm going to have to put no glaze on this part, otherwise it'll stick to the shelf. And then this little line is going to allow me to wrap the wax resist all the way up till about there, and it's going to give me a really clean line to glaze to. It's going to be nice. All right, now if you look at this, you'll notice that it actually has a different texture where we've trimmed versus where we haven't trimmed. So this is all our throwing marks, and this is all kind of a rough texture. And the reason that happens is as we're throwing the pot, it's spinning counterclockwise, right? So as we're smoothing it with our fingers while it's spinning, it's like laying down shingles on a roof. They're all being laid flat on top of each other going this direction. But then when we flip it upside down, and it keeps spinning it the way it was spinning, uh-oh, now it's going the opposite direction. So what that's like, that would be like setting your cat on your lap and then petting it in the wrong direction and making all the hairs stand up. And that's what it's doing to the platelets in your clay. The platelets are actually standing up on end, and that's why it looks like a different texture. So just like if you had your cat on your lap and you're petting it the wrong way, the nice thing to do is to smooth all the hair out and make it a happy cat again. So we're gonna make this a happy pot by smoothing out all the platelets. So I'm gonna reverse the direction of my wheel. Now it's spinning the opposite direction. And I'm going to take a sponge, and you don't want a ton of water on it because you don't want it to drip down. And I'm going to smooth all the platelets back down so that it almost looks like I threw this whole pot in one go. Alright, smooth that out. Make it look really nice. Alright, now the very last, I know I've said that like 6 times, but the very last thing you're gonna do is look at it and make sure you don't have any goobers on it. Most people spend a lot of hours making their pots nice, and then they trim it and it looks good, and they leave like little bits of clay on it, and that is just super annoying. Get the little goobies off. You spent so much time on it, make it really nice. It'll also make it easier to glaze if it looks really nice. All right, and then what I'm gonna do is sign the bottom with my needle tool. And I like to put the date because it's fun to see when we made them. When it's been like 10 years, it'll be cool. And now it's beautifully trimmed. The next kind of trimming that I'm going to show you is called a foot ring, and a lot of times we put these on bowls, but you can put them on cups as well. It takes even more clay out of the pot so that you can recycle it and use it later. It also makes the glazing look really nice because with our other pot that we trimmed, we're gonna have to put no glaze on this part because it's all gonna be close to the kiln shelf. Some people like to put glaze in the middle and just have one ring with no glaze on it. And so this is a really good trimming method for that. So I'm gonna get it centered. Oh, make sure your wheel's going counterclockwise. So now it's secure to the wheel so we can start. So just like the other pot, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of get rid of all these bumps. Smooth it out a bit. Once the outside's fairly smooth, I'm gonna decide where I want the outside of this foot ring to go. So I'm gonna pick something that's still pretty stable because I don't want it to be very tippy. So that's gonna be the outside. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the small end of my trimming tool and I'm gonna go straight down from that line and make a clear delineation between this part of the foot ring and the rest of my cup versus the other one went straight up. So I'm gonna go straight down and then round it out. All right. The next thing I'm gonna do is figure out where the inside is gonna be. And when I'm picking a width for this, I like to kind of mimic what the lip looks like. Maybe go a little bit thicker if you have a very thin lip, but try to make it look like it really goes with the pot. Now I'm gonna start with the inside of that line. Notice I'm using the small end of the tool again. And I'm gonna go straight towards the middle. Really trying to make it clear the difference between the bottom of my cup and the foot ring. I'm going to do the medium one. I don't think the large piece will fit in there. That's okay, I can smooth it out. All right, now the last thing you want to do is clean up the actual foot ring and make it flat. So for that, I'm going to go really quickly. You have to hold the tool very straight so that it doesn't dig through your foot ring. I'm going to flatten that out. And then you can come back and kind of clean it up because it might get squished a little bit. Outtakes number 7. Just kidding. Alright, I'm just going to clean this foot with my fingers because it's a little bit moldable. Make sure the edges are all really straight. Alright, so I still want, even though I smoothed it out with a sponge, I still want to make sure that I get the texture right on the outside. So I switch directions again. Smoothing it all out. Now I have a foot ring. So there's pros and cons to each one of these trimming methods, but whatever you really like, this is kind of where it gets into the artist's choice of what you would like to do and what it's going to be used for, and think about those kind of things.